Tonight, we explore a story of global consequence, ambition, power, and water. This is a tale that stretches across continents, shaping the destinies of nations and the lives of millions. At its heart lies a vision so bold, it could alter the very map of world trade and geopolitics. Imagine a waterway, 3 times longer than the Panama Canal, carved through the heart of Central America, the Nicaragua Canal. This proposed megaproject would stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific, slicing through jungles, villages, and one of the world's largest freshwater lakes. If completed, it would become one of the most ambitious engineering feats in modern history, rivaling the Suez and Panama Canals in scale and significance. But this controversial project is more than just a channel for ships. Supporters say it could lift Nicaragua out of poverty, creating jobs, infrastructure, and a new era of prosperity for one of the Western Hemisphere's poorest nations. Yet, the canal also threatens to spark a new Cold War, devastate fragile ecosystems, and displace thousands of families, many of them indigenous people who have called these lands home for generations. The debate is fierce, with passionate voices on both sides. The plan is staggering in its ambition, a 278-kilometer channel, wide and deep enough to accommodate the world's largest ships, vessels that can't even fit through the Panama Canal. The estimated cost, up to $100 billion, a sum that dwarfs Nicaragua's entire economy. The project would require massive earthworks, new ports, and a transformation of the region's landscape on a scale rarely seen. Nicaragua's government hails the canal as a path to sovereignty and prosperity, a way to break free from economic dependence and put the country on the global stage. For many Nicaraguans, it represents hope, a chance to finally realize the nation's long-held dreams of development and self-determination. But critics warn it's a Chinese power play, putting Beijing's influence on Washington's doorstep. The main backers are Chinese state-linked companies, raising fears that the canal could become a strategic foothold for China in the Americas. For the United States, this is more than an economic project. It's a potential threat to its traditional sphere of influence. In 2024, a severe drought crippled the Panama Canal, leaving ships stranded and global supply chains in chaos. The world watched as one of its most vital trade arteries slowed to a trickle, reviving arguments for an alternative route. Suddenly, the idea of a second canal across Central America no longer seemed like a distant fantasy, but a pressing necessity. Now, with Chinese state-backed enterprises conducting new studies and surveys, the canal is closer to reality than ever before. Engineers and planners are on the ground, mapping out the future, while investors and governments watch with anticipation and anxiety. Alarm bells are ringing from Washington to Panama City. Diplomats, military strategists, and business leaders are all weighing the risks and rewards, knowing that the outcome could reshape alliances and rivalries for decades to come. But this is more than a story of engineering and economics. It's about people, indigenous communities, and the environment. The canal's path would cut through protected forests, wetlands, and ancestral lands, threatening unique species and traditional ways of life. Environmentalists warn of irreversible damage, while local farmers fear for their livelihoods. The fate of Central America's largest freshwater lake, Lake Nicaragua, hangs in the balance. This vast body of water is a lifeline for millions, providing drinking water, food, and transportation. Its future is now uncertain, as the world debates the price of progress. Nicaragua stands at the center of a global struggle between the US and China, caught in the cross-currents of great power competition. The decisions made here will echo far beyond its borders, shaping the future of trade, security, and the environment. What happens here will send ripples across the world, affecting economies, ecosystems, and the balance of power for generations to come. The idea of a canal through Central America is centuries old. Spanish conquistadors first imagined a shortcut between the Atlantic and Pacific. Lake Nicaragua and the San Juan River made the region a prime candidate. In the 1800s, the US eyed Nicaragua as the ideal route, seeking to connect its coasts. But in 1902, after a campaign of fear over volcanoes, Congress chose Panama instead. The Nicaraguan dream faded, but never died. The Panama Canal became a symbol of American might. Yet Nicaragua's geographical advantages remained. The idea resurfaced over the years, waiting for a powerful backer. Now that backer may finally have arrived. For over a century, the idea of a canal through Nicaragua was little more than a historical footnote, an ambitious dream that flickered and faded as the world changed around it. The vision was grand, a waterway to rival the Panama Canal, cutting through the heart of Central America and transforming global trade. Yet, for decades, the project languished, overshadowed by political turmoil, financial hurdles, and shifting international interests. Everything changed when China entered the scene, bringing with it not just money, but a bold new vision for Nicaragua's future. In 2012, President Daniel Ortega revived the long-dormant project, granting a sweeping 50-year concession to the enigmatic Hong Kong-Nicaragua Canal Development Group, or HKND, led by the little-known Chinese billionaire Wang Jing. Suddenly, the canal was back on the world stage. But this was more than just a canal. The plan called for a vast network of infrastructure. Deep water ports on both coasts, a massive airport, and a sprawling free trade zone, promising to turn Nicaragua into a global logistics hub. The price tag? An eye-watering $100 billion, an investment that dwarfed Nicaragua's entire economy. Ortega promised that this mega-project would bring jobs, prosperity, and a new era of economic transformation to his country, but not everyone was convinced. Critics, both inside and outside Nicaragua, saw the project as a strategic move by China to expand its influence in the Americas, raising alarms about sovereignty, transparency, and the true motives behind the deal. If completed, the canal would give China direct access to the Atlantic Ocean, bypassing the US-controlled Panama Canal and reshaping global shipping routes. It would also give Beijing a powerful foothold in what has long been considered America's backyard, raising geopolitical stakes to new heights. The deal was rushed through Nicaragua's legislature with little debate, granting HKND extraordinary powers over land, resources, and even law enforcement, fueling fears of lost sovereignty and unchecked foreign control. Outrage erupted across the country, protests filled the streets, and headlines warned of a nation selling its soul for a promise of prosperity. Yet, despite the controversy and mounting opposition, a groundbreaking ceremony was held in 2014, with officials hailing the dawn of a new era. For a brief, shining moment, the impossible seemed within reach. Hopes soared as the world watched Nicaragua on the verge of transformation. But as history would soon reveal, the story of the Nicaragua Canal and China's grand design was far from over. The grand promises of the Nicaragua Canal quickly unraveled, leaving behind only echoes of what could have been. Once hailed as a transformative project that would rival the Panama Canal and bring prosperity to Nicaragua, the canal was supposed to reshape global trade and lift an entire nation out of poverty. But the reality was far more complicated, and the dream began to fade almost as soon as it was announced. Despite the international fanfare and bold predictions, construction never truly began. Financing was elusive, with investors wary of the project's feasibility and the lack of transparency. Local skepticism grew as months passed with no visible progress, and the grand vision started to look more like an illusion. In 2015, disaster struck. A dramatic crash in China's stock market wiped out much of Wang Jing's fortune, the billionaire behind the canal. With his financial empire in ruins, the project lost its main source of funding, and hope for the canal's completion evaporated almost overnight. HKND, the company set up to build the canal, began to shrink rapidly. Offices were downsized, staff laid off, and by 2018, its Hong Kong headquarters had closed for good. The company's disappearance left behind confusion and broken promises. For thousands of Nicaraguans living along the proposed canal route, uncertainty turned to anxiety. Many feared losing their homes and land, while others worried about the environmental impact and the lack of consultation with local communities. Resistance began to build. Grassroots opposition grew into a powerful movement. Over 100 protest marches were organized across the country, with activists and ordinary citizens demanding the repeal of the controversial concession law that had given HKND sweeping powers. The government responded with a heavy hand, cracking down on dissent. Protest leaders were jailed, and human rights organizations around the world condemned the repression, putting Nicaragua in the international spotlight for all the wrong reasons. By the early 2020s, the canal was little more than a memory, an abandoned project, and a source of national embarrassment. The land once promised for development was left overgrown and forgotten, a stark reminder of broken dreams. The legal concession for the canal remained on paper, but the grand vision was dead. For many, It became a symbol of lost hope and unfulfilled promises. As the world moved on and attention shifted elsewhere, the story of the Nicaragua Canal faded into obscurity, until new events would one day revive its ghost. Just as the canal seemed finished, new events revived it. In 2021, Nicaragua cut ties with Taiwan and embraced China, signaling readiness for a new partnership. A 2024 drought crippled the Panama Canal, exposing the risks of relying on a single waterway. Suddenly a second canal seemed necessary. In 2024, Nicaragua revoked HKND's concession, clearing the way for direct state-to-state deals. Chinese state-backed entities began new feasibility studies in Nicaragua. The project is no longer a billionaire's gamble, but a strategic move by Beijing. The canal is now an urgent geopolitical issue, not a forgotten dream. The phoenix is rising from the ashes. A Chinese-backed canal in Nicaragua is a geopolitical flashpoint. For the U.S., it's a direct challenge to its dominance in Central America. Washington fears not just commercial competition, but potential Chinese military use. Congressional hearings and diplomatic warnings have followed. For China, the canal secures supply chains and expands influence. Nicaragua's authoritarian regime offers Beijing predictability, but also risks instability. Experts warn that aggressive moves could provoke a U.S. backlash. Nicaragua is caught between two giants in a high-stakes game. For Panama, a rival canal is an existential threat. The Panama Canal is vital to its economy. A new canal could divert up to 30% of its traffic. Panama faces potential economic crisis and has rallied regional opposition. In Nicaragua, the government promises prosperity, doubling GDP and creating jobs. But economists warn of debt traps and benefits flowing mainly to Chinese firms and elites. The risk deepening inequality and dependency, not solving poverty. The canal could create a dual economy, leaving most Nicaraguans behind. The economic stakes are as high as the political ones. The canal's route cuts through Lake Nicaragua, the region's largest freshwater source. Scientists warn of catastrophic contamination, habitat destruction, and invasive species. The project threatens rainforests, wetlands, and at least 22 endangered species. Forced relocation could displace 120,000 people, many from indigenous communities. The concession law allowed land expropriation with little compensation. International courts condemned the project's human rights violations. Nicaragua withdrew from oversight bodies. For those in the canal's path, it's a fight for survival. The environmental and human costs are staggering. The future of the Nicaragua Canal is unwritten, but its stakes are global. It's a test of China's ambition, U.S. influence, and the fate of Panama's economy. Most crucially, it's about the people and ecosystems in the canal's path. The world must not look away. Environmental and human risks are immense. Will mega-projects override sustainability and rights? The decisions made now will set a precedent for the 21st century. The Nicaragua Canal is a test case for our values and priorities. The world is watching, and the stakes are too high for indifference.